Okay, we are picking back up here. I have a cart here, and this is exactly how you'll be set up. You can put your well wherever you want to. I like mine over here. I like to work from left to right. So once I come back with my medications, now is when I'm going to start my checks. These are the 6 rights of medication administration. You need to review that and make sure that you know it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just start down my list. The first thing that I see is going to be a warfarin tablet, and I'll notice in my drawers here that I have a plastic cup. I teach you to work across as you're checking. That way, if you get interrupted, you know where you are. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find that warfarin, and I'm just going to bring it right up here to the screen, and I show that I have a warfarin, 5 milligrams orally daily at 9 a.m. That is correct. That's going to be my first check. The next thing I show to have is ampicillin. That's going to be my reconstitution. I do show that I have an ampicillin 300 milligram dose intramuscular every 12 hours, and it's due at 8 a.m. Ampicillin 1 gram vial. It says see label for reconstitution instructions. So I see that I have to give a 300 milligram dose, and it says here that if I reconstitute 300 milligrams per ml, I need to add 9.6 mLs of diluent. So I'm going to go ahead and get into my drawer and get the syringe that I want. I know that this is going to be an IM. Miss Harper is not a very large lady, so I know that a 23 gauge 1 inch will work fine for me. I'm also going to grab a 10 ml syringe for reconstitution, and I'm going to grab some blunts. The blunt needle will be used for pulling up, and then I have an extra needle in here for when I use it. I like to work on my cart here, not on my wow, that way it doesn't get dirty. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip off everything here. These are new, and so I will not have to wipe them with alcohol, but it's okay if you do. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open my syringe and throw that in the trash. And I'm going to open, and I'm going to pull up. It says that I am supposed to reconstitute this with 9.6 mLs of diluent. So I'm going to pull this up to 9.6 mLs. And this needle does not work in increments that way, the syringe. So I'm not going to use this syringe. I'm just going to put this one away. And I'm going to grab a different one. So now that I have a syringe that works to go to 9.6, I'm going to go ahead and pull that up to 9.6 with air. And I have that set where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and inject this into my diluent, which is the sodium chloride. I'm going to flip that up and just let that run right back in. Once it stops pulling, I'm going to just push that air up, knock any bubbles I see out of there, get that back down to where I want it. One of the key things is if you put just a little bit of air and then knock those bubbles, they will come right out. And then just put it right back up to where you want it to be. You make sure you have the amount that you want. I want 9.6. And I have 9.6. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that to my instructor, and I'm going to show that to the camera. And then I'm going to pull that out. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to inject that into my reconstitution. And I'm just going to push that in there now. You'll notice that it gets tight. When it starts to get tight, if you'll just pull that syringe up to where it's just barely in the bottle and then let that air escape, and then push the rest of your diluent in, It makes it easier when you go to pull this and just let all that air escape. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and just lay my needle down here back inside of its case, because I'm going to use that to pull up this medication. I'm going to go ahead and mix my ampicillin. And I just want to make sure that it mixes well. There's nothing left in the bottom of the container. It looks like it has mixed well. It's very clear. It's nice yellow. Once I have that done, I know that 300 milligrams per ml is my dosage. So I'm going to go ahead and open my new package. And I'm going to go ahead and pull out my 3 ml syringe. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little jerk because sometimes they're hard to use. And I have 1 ml. So I'm going to go ahead and use this blunt needle. And since I'm done with this one, I can throw it in the trash. And I have 1 ml of air. Once I have that 1 ml of air, I'm going to just bring it right back down in and inject it into here. And I'm going to pull up 1 ml of medication. Because I reconstituted it to 300 milligrams, I know that my dosage was 300 milligrams per ml, and my dose is 300 milligrams. Once I get that where I want it, I have 1 ml in there. I'm going to show that to the camera, and I'm going to show it to my instructor. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out, recap that needle with it laying down, and then just lay this here for a minute. One of the things I didn't mention when you come in is you'll want to grab some patient labels from the patient's chart on your way back with your medications or at the beginning. They're great to use for information to put on your patient's chart. And now that I have my medication prepared, I'm just going to use one of the patient labels, and I am going to label this 300 milligrams of ampicillin. And I'm going to put my initials and the date on it. Once I've done that, I can use this label, and I want to note the expiration date, and it expires 12/2020. And I'm just going to make me a little flag with this. One of the things you're going to want to do is, we used to not take medication vials to the bedside. Now we do. This just gives us a little extra check because we need that barcode. Okay, so now that I have my med pulled up, I know it's in the right strength, the right constitution. I'm going to go ahead and switch these needles out. And I have a 1 ml syringe ready to go. Okay, and you would put this in the sharps container. Okay. One thing I need to do now is I need to check this medication. So now that I have it in the right route, I can check that off. I'd have ampicillin, 300 milligrams. I have a 300 milligrams per 1 ml because that is how I reconstituted it. So 1 ml is 300 milligrams. It's intramuscular every 12 hours at 8 a.m. And I have that. All right, next thing on my list, I have the insulin NPH. So insulin NPH, you have to mix. With the insulin NPH, in the drawer, when you come in for testing purposes, there will be little barcodes that you'll pick up for your syringe. You will not take these into the bedside with you because you don't want to bring these back out to the Pyxis area. Okay. So I have my insulin and pH. I know that looking at this that I have to give 2 insulins. So I'm going to mix those together, so I only have to give her 1 shot. So I'm going to look at this, and I don't know what her dose was this morning, what her blood sugar was this morning. So I'm going to go back over to my summary. I'm going to go back over here to my order results, vital signs. I'm going to look at that blood glucose. I'm going to go to vital signs, go to blood glucose. She had a 220 this morning. So I know that I'm going to need to give her, based on my MAR, she's going to have regular insulin for a 220 dose, puts her at 8 units. A 181 to 240 puts her at 8 units. So in addition to the 14, I'm going to have to give her 8. So I'm going to go ahead and bring both of these over. I'm going to double check, make sure that I have the right meds. I do have insulin and pH subcutaneously 2 times a day, 14 units, and that is what I want. And the insulin regular subcutaneously twice a day at 8 a.m. So I'm going to go ahead and just mix this one up. Flip that top off. Once you flip these top off on the insulin, you'll want to make sure that you date it for the day that you opened it. So I have my NPH and my regular. I'm going to go ahead and, based on that dosage, I know that she is going to get, and this is where I pull out one of the patient labels. And I just note that I'm going to give her NPH 14 units, regular 8 units, and then I just add those up for a total of 22 units. So based on a total of 22 units, I know that a 50 unit syringe will be just perfect for that. So I'm going to go ahead and pop open my syringe. When you work with insulin, you're going to go clear to cloudy. So we're going to pull up our regular first. So we want to put our air into our NPH, knowing that we needed to give NPH insulin. It said that based on her 220, her NPH is at 14 units. So I'm going to pull up 14 units of air, and if you set these on their top, they're a little bit easier to work with. I'm going to pull up that 14 units of air. And I'm just going to inject that into my NPH. And then I'm going to pull it out. And I know that I needed 8 units of regular based on her 220. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up 8 units. I have 8. And I'm going to pull up those 8 units. I'm going to inject that air, and I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to push that up to 8. Key here is that you can come directly down to 8 and push up in the regular, but once you get to the NPH, you can't. So I have 8 units, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that to my instructor. I have 8 units, and show it to the camera. And I'm going to come right back over to that NPH, and I'm now going to pick up 14 units for a total of 22. So you don't want to push back into this. So you're going to pull this right down to 22. just pull, 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 pull. And I have a total of 22 units. I have 22 units, and I'm going to show that to my instructor and to the camera. And then I'm going to make sure that my needle is not bent in any way. I'm going to put that right back down here on there. And pull that label that I made. And you'll be able to use those labels that have the insulin on it. And we may decide to let you take these to the bedside. It'll be up to the instructor's discretion, but we'll have both available, the labels or the insulin. So now that I have it up where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and double check my meds. So I have regular insulin. I have 8 units, subcutaneously twice a day. That is correct. I now have my Humulin N. My Humulin N was 14 units for a total of 22 twice a day subcutaneously. So that is my first check on both of those. Alright, next med that I see that I have due is the Relafin. And that is a tablet, so I'm just going to pick that right up and look at it. Relafin, 750 milligrams orally daily at 9 a.m. and it expires 12/20/20. You want to make sure you're noting the expiration date. I may not be saying it every time, but I am looking at it. And that is my first check of that med. Alright, then we have a tuberculin PPD. I have a tuberculin PPD, 5 tuberculin units per 0.1 ml, intradermal once in the morning. So I'm just going to bring that right back over here. Pick up my TB syringe. And go ahead and flip that off. It is a 0.1 ml dose. These also will stand on end, which makes them really nice. If you need to move this to be able to see better, these spin. I have a 0.1 ml, 0.1 ml. I'm just going to go right down into that TB. Flip that up, push in that air, or push it in before you flip it up and just look at it. If you get a bubble, just push it right back in and then pull down quickly. It'll make that bubble go away and then just push it right back up to 0.1. I have a 0.1 dose. I'm going to show that to my instructor. Okay, and I want to make that label. So this is a PPD, tuberculin, 0.1 mLs is 5 units, 5 tuberculin units, today's date, and my initials. And I'm just going to label that. I have that ready to go. Now I'm just going to double check it one more time. I do have tuberculin PPD derivative 0.1 ml intradermal once daily. Tuberculin, I did pull it from this vial. That is correct. Okay, that's my first check of all of my meds. I'm going to work back across to get my second check. So I'm just going to start at the top again. I'm going to start with my pills. Starting with my pills, if I dump them out in my tray, bring my cup right back over here, I know that I need my warfarin, my Coumadin. So I'm going to go ahead and check that Coumadin. 5 milligrams orally daily at 9 a.m. And that is a good dose, and it expires 12/20/20, and it is in the right form. It's oral. Okay. The next thing I have is my ampicillin. If you remember, I had my vial and my syringe. So I have my ampicillin, 1 gram, and I reconstituted it to 300 milligrams per ml. Ampicillin, 300 milligrams per ml, intramuscular, every 12 hours. I do have a 1 ml dose, which is what I reconstituted it to, and it expires 12/20/20. The next thing on my list is my insulin isophane, so I'm just going to bring both of those over because I know that I need to work with both of those. I have insulin isophane, NPH. I have my insulin NPH, 14 units subcutaneously twice a day at 8 a.m. I do have that. That is correct, and it expires 12 of 2020. I know that I have my insulin regular in here also, and based on her dose, she was supposed to get 8 units for a total of 22. I do have 22 units, so I have insulin regular subcutaneously 2 times a day. It is in the right form, and it expires 12 of 2020. The next thing on my list is my Relafin. I have Relafin, a 750 milligram dose orally. It is a pill form. It's going to be given daily at 9 a.m. And last but not least, I have my Tuberculin TPPD 0.1 intradermal daily once today at 9 a.m. and I have a 0.1 dose. I do have a tuberculin purified derivative, and it expires 12 of 2020. I'm going to go ahead and say that we're going to take everything to the bedside. It'll make it easier on you when you're at the bedside, because then you'll have your vials with you and you have all your barcodes that you need. Okay, so when we pick up again, we're going to be at the bedside ready to give our medications.